water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. When the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills were great, he's a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. So I'd say I'm a pretty big Avatar fan. Pretty big. However, it's come to my attention that not everyone my age grew up watching this show, and because it's a kids show, not many people as an adult will watch it, which you really should. Now, there are plenty of video essays online about why Avatar is one of the best shows out there. And if I really wanted to, I could talk for hours on about each individual character and each individual episode and the four different styles and the four different nations and all the background information from making a show like this, but I'm not going to do that to you. I'm just going to be talking about the show as a whole and why you, as an adult, should potentially watch it. This isn't going to be a vast discussion about both of the shows and the comics and the books and all the other different material in the world of Avatar. It's just going to be about the original recipe, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I should also say that I got the inspiration from this video by someone posting on a fan page of the show that I'm part of on Facebook, of a Tumblr post that someone made about the reasons why you should watch Avatar. I'll link the original post, in the description below. So, without any further ado, here is my list for the 10 reasons why you, an adult, need to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. Number 1. The insane world building. For those who don't know the first thing about Avatar: The Last Airbender, or ALTA for short, I will now be using that one for the rest of the video. It's set in a world split into 4 nations, each one being able to control one of the 4 base elements: water, earth, fire, and air. The 4 nations used to live peacefully together until one day the Fire Nation decided it was the superior element and decided to attack the rest of the world. Cut to 100 years later and the war is still going on. The Fire Nation has just completely destroyed, and I mean destroyed, one of the other 3 nations, the Air Nomads. Hence the name of the show. And is fighting the other 2. All of this is explained in, like, the first episode. Most of it in, like, a 2-ish minutes opening narration. Now, there is something to be said about the term show don't tell. However, when you're trying to build an engaging world in a show primarily targeted and marketed towards kids, with episodes that are roughly 20 to 25 minutes, having a 2-minute opening narration at the beginning of the pilot with a massive just exposition dump about the history and the world, it's kind of needed. And that's just in the first episode of the first season, and like, it's so good. It just builds on it from there continuously. The first episode also introduces us to our primary cast, the 4 people who will be with us throughout the entirety of the journey. That is Aang, Katara, Sokka, and Zuko, all of which who are really brilliant characters. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The rest of this point is kind of taken up by the next couple of points, so I'm just gonna swiftly move this along into our next category, which is a brilliant magic system. Like, just a brilliant magic system. The magic system in ALTA is a hard magic system. Don't worry, I'm not gonna bore you by going into detail about the difference between a hard magic system and a soft magic system and how to create a different type of magic system when you're writing a fantasy story. However, if you are interested in that sort of stuff, I will link right there to a video essay by a guy called Hello Future Me about hard magic systems, which is one of a 2-part series about the different types of magic systems when you're writing a fantasy story. It's a brilliant video essay. He's really intelligent and knows what he's talking about. He's very intellectual when it comes to fictional writing. I would highly recommend it. But in short, a hard magic system is one in which the rules and abilities and limitations of your magic users is clearly defined. It's clear in the show that any one person can only control one of the 4 elements, with the exception being the avatar. And Bejing's ability is attributed to training, knowledge, and a bit of natural skill. It's also made very clear, again, in the pilot episode, that not every person in the world has the ability to control one of the elements. We meet Sokka, a non-bending character who is the sibling of Katara, who is a waterbender. So we know that it's not a genetic thing, because there are plenty of non-benders and benders who are related. We also see that the bending in this world isn't just used for fighting, like some lesser fantasy stories just use magic for. See that the Earth Kingdom use earthbending to transport mail or open up doors. We see that waterbenders, the water tribes, use waterbending in their architecture. The Fire Nation and the Air Nomads both use their bending styles to power their vehicles. However, the magic system is intrinsically linked. Don't think I'm using that word right, but it's severely linked to the fight sequences. Which brings me on to my next point, which is fight sequences and the choreography of the show. It's good. The combat in this show is off the charts. As some of you may already know, I am a martial artist by trade, seeing that I'm a martial arts instructor, so I will always appreciate a really well thought out, good piece of choreography in an action set piece. And oh boy, is ALTA or Avatar, whatever you want to call it. I'm feeling a bit more cringy now that I'm saying ALTA a lot. But Avatar is by no means short on this front. Out of the 10 potential matchups between Bender and a Bender in a combat situation, we only don't see 3. And one of them is an Airbender versus an Airbender, and we can't see that because, as the show would suggest, Aang is the only Airbender in the entire show. And that's not to mention all of the fights including non-benders. Most of the main non-bending characters have some form of specialization, like whether that being projectiles or hand-to-hand combat using pressure points or some form of other weapons speciality. No 2 fights are the same. In the show there's a sort of duel between 2 firebenders called an Agni Kai. This appears 3 times throughout the course of the show, all of them revolving around the same character. And despite that, they're all like so different in terms of tone and scale and the effect it has on the audience. Going further in, I was watching an episode before while I was setting up, and they were using their environment, and this is true throughout the entire course of the show. They use their setting to make the fights more interesting. Whether that's with a wooden floor where you can break the panels and use them to deflect stuff coming in towards you, or you're skating down something and you're using the momentum to get uphand on your opponents. It happens a lot in the show, and it always adds something new to the combat. Let's add a sense of realism to it as well, why not? While we're at it, all of the 4 different styles of bending are all based on 4 very real and very different styles of Chinese martial arts. The showrunners actually got a professional martial arts expert in to work with the animators and show the best style for each nation. Obviously, like, earthbenders are going to be very different to airbenders. That's obviously, you'd think that anyway, but they decided to get someone in and say which one would work best for which situation. Number 4, the themes. Avatar is a kid show. There's no 2 ways around that. It's full of slapstick comedy and toilet humour, but at the same time it covers some of the most difficult topics that you can bring up in a TV show. Sexism, disability on multiple fronts, imperialism, war, work camps, prisoner of war camps, and genocide. Nowadays, a lot of kids' shows do openly talk about more difficult subjects like gender, like race, like disability, transsexuality, and the discrimination that often comes along with these topics. But Avatar laid the groundworks and showed that animated shows like this, designed for kids, can and potentially should talk about these topics. And it's got to be given some praise for that. And on top of that, none of the views in Avatar which are seen as good views are at all dated or problematic in any way, shape or form, which, if anything, just goes to show how strong this show was initially to last the test of time. Number 5! The character development. Now, when I say character development is good in this show, I don't mean that the base characters, when they start off, are bad. At all. There's a lot of really good and very different characters, particularly female characters. There's so many strong female characters in this show, and all of them are wildly different. However, this point is about the character development because it's so good. Because despite it being a show based in a truly, genuinely realised world with a solid magic system that works seamlessly into its fight sequences and that tackles really tough themes, none of that is what people truly love about this show. What people love about Avatar is its characters. Over the past year, I politely forced my girlfriend into watching Avatar for the first time. And after watching it, I asked her what her favourite part of the show was. I'd like to point out that she did actually like the show. I didn't she didn't say, I hate it, but I'm like, yes, but what did you like about it? No, she actually did like the show in general. But anyway, moving on with the story. And she said that the thing that she most liked about the show was how the main character, Aang, isn't very likable. As a kid, when you watch the show, you empathise with Aang. Being a kid who just wants to have fun. Enjoying life, a free spirit, enjoying life, while also trying to do some good. But watching the show as an adult, particularly for the first time when you don't have the nostalgia there, Aang's kind of annoying. He's naive, he's got a tendency for being a little bit arrogant, and he's childish, which are all very realistic traits for a 12-year-old child to have. All the characters in the show, whether that's child or adult, all have realistic wants, desires, pros, cons, flaws, fears, desires, probably already said desires, and all of the lead cast have some form of character arc which betters them as people, whether that's to learn to relax, learning humility, gaining empathy for others, or having one of the best character arcs in a show ever. Don't at me. The point I'm trying to make is that Avatar is a masterclass in creating believable and likeable characters that grow as people. So even the less likeable characters turn into fan favourites. Number 6, the animation. Avatar is beautiful. I mean, look! How can you deny the sheer visual appeal for this show? Do you like my little voice crack there? Because I did not. Avatar is animated in a sort of westernized version of anime, intentionally leaving out the more over-the-top, if you will, parts of the Japanese style. They do this to help the show appeal more to westernized audience which aren't used to this style of animation. And I'm not saying that I think Japanese animes are bad for putting these more serious parts of anime in. In fact, I think the exact opposite. I'm just saying the animators took into consideration what their target audience is and who the target audience is and what that audience would be used to when it comes to animated stories, which allows people who don't watch anime because they're not a big fan of the sudden shouting and the big loud noises and the sudden seriousness of a situation to start watching this show without getting the whiplash from it. As I said before, the animators also use a lot of physical comedy in the show, like slapstick humour and stuff like that, which leads me on to my next point, comedy. This is a funny show. It's a show that was pitched for Nickelodeon, so of course there's going to be a lot of child-oriented humour in this show. But despite that, same as a lot of kids' movies, there's a lot of humour for the adults who are kind of forced into watching it with their children. Particularly with the introduction of Toph, a character who just so happens to be blind. This allowed the writers to take more liberties with darker humour, with Toph making quite a bit of blind jokes. In the same season that the show introduces Toph, the show also introduces May, who is a character going through their goth, emo, I like My Chemical Romance with the side fringe covering my face is not a phase. Her lackadaisical way of being, lackadaisical? Am I using that? 1 second. Am I using that right? Lackadaisical. What? Without interest, vigor, or determination. Yeah.
Lackadaisical.
Lackadaisical. Not lackadaisical. Huh. Well, I've been using that wrong all my life. But yeah, her lackadaisical way of being just allowed for many times, on many occasions when me and my girlfriend watched the show, for my girlfriend to just shout out, mood! Massive mood! She's a relatable character in a really weird way because she's relatable in how little she cares about what's going on. Kids find her funny because they think it's absolutely ridiculous that a character would be this bored when so much amazing things is happening all over. And adults find her funny because she's saying what we're thinking. And we relate to her for how tired she is of everyone's crap. Not to mention all the physical comedy that I kind of alluded to earlier. Next! Number 8. The cultural significance. There's a reason why I'm recording this episode 12 years after the finale, the last episode, was released. And it's the same reason why I'm not the only person by far to have made a video on this topic. The show still stands up. It taught my generation about sexism and racism and morality, and the people like me who grew up watching their shows are now showing their partners and children this show, and they're loving and they're falling in love with it all over again. There are characters who have bad or quite offensive views, but they're either the bad guys or they grow out of their views and grow as people. The show isn't outdated, the show isn't problematic, it's real. Or as real as show can be when there's flying bison in it and literal magic. And the fan base is still so strong to this day, partially because it's not just the one 3-season show. There's a whole other show that's about what happens 100 years after the events of the first show, about what happened to the avatar that succeeds Aang. There's comics and books not only about the history of the world, but also about what happens between the two TV shows. And all of this together just helps fill out the world even more than it already was. And fans just keep coming back for more. You want a short fan-made film? The Avatar community has that for you. You want a short video essay that talks about the show as a whole? Like this one was supposed to be, but I'm looking at the timer and it's looking a bit longer. I do apologise. The fan base has got that for you. You want an hour-long video that talks about the entire psychology of just one character. Looking at you, hello future me. The fan base has got that for you. You want a video game that's currently being in development that follows the entire series? The fan base has that for you. And I will link a video that goes into more detail about the video game in the description and right there. It's still culturally relevant and people still talk about it. It's still at the forefront of people's conversations when they talk about great TV shows, despite it being a kids show. Number 9, the development of the quality of the show. This one's a weird one. This one's a bit of a weird one. But the show isn't perfect. It pains me to say it, but it's not. The first season as a whole is an average season of a kid's cartoon. at best, with 2 great episodes and a handful of good ones. A large group of the Avatar community would tell new viewers to just skip the first season entirely while explaining what they would have missed. My girlfriend herself said that if she was watching the show herself and she was just watching the first season on her own, she wouldn't have made it to season 2. However, I think that you should still watch it because it lays the groundworks for a lot of good stuff, and it teaches you a lot about the characters and the world. The first season shows how oppressive the Fire Nation is with episodes like Imprisoned and the Southern Air Temple. It shows the parallels between the main antagonist, Zuko, and the main protagonist, Aang, in the episode The Storm. And it shows that this show is unlike most kids' fantasy shows at the time, and even now, where it's all of the good guys versus all of the bad guys and there's no one in between and there's no crossover. We see that not all of the Earth Kingdom are good guys, and we see that not all of the Fire Nation are pure evil. But I'm starting to make it seem like the first season is absolutely brilliant. It's not. It starts off bad, but then it gets so much better the more you watch it. The show rewards you for your loyalty to the show, which I guess could be seen as a bad thing, but I see it as a plus. The more you watch it, the better it gets. The show jumps massively in quality from the first season to the second, and then again takes a massive stride forwards again when it comes to the third season. And it's not just like one aspect of the show gets better throughout the series, it's everything gets better together. Like the animation, the music, the sound design, the characters, the performances, the writing, the structure, it all just gets better as it goes on. Which leads me into my final point. Number 10. It all works together. A lot of shows, particularly shows targeted towards younger kids, have 1 or 2 qualities that they really sell themselves on. Whether that's the animation or the storytelling or how this show particularly tackles certain issues. Avatar doesn't have a single quality that it lies heavily on, because the show as a whole is the quality that it relies heavily on. Like I said before, it doesn't start perfectly, but over the 3 seasons, that's 62 episodes. That's roughly 20 hours. That means I can watch that in a day. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it all works together, weaving in and out of each other. The music works with the animation, works with the fights, works with the magic, works with the world. With the characters tying it all together with a little bow and a label that says, enjoy. God, that was cringy. But hey, that's just one guy's opinion on a YouTube channel which has less than 100 subscribers. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't watched Avatar yet, I hope this video has convinced you to do so. And if you have watched Avatar before and you love the show as much as I do, comment below what's your 10 reasons to watch. Maybe don't put 10 because that will make very long comments to read. What's your top reason? What's your best reason? What's your top reason to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? Get in the comments, let me know. And if this video did convince you to watch it and you decided to watch it, let me know what you thought. But as always guys, please leave a like and subscribe if you really did like this video. It really does help me out, and it helps my channel get found by the YouTube algorithm, which helps other people come and find me. Other than that, I'm gonna leave you there. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you soon with another one, hopefully. See you later. Bye guys. Bye.